Family Feud ng Team Mister Pilipinas Worldwide ng 200,000 pesos.
Family Feud, 5:40 p.m.
Our one-of-a-kind JKM Burger Pizza, the perfect fusion of flavors that
Nagmamano pa.
That's okay.
Good evening, Reggie. The time is 6:42 p.m. Today is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. In Balangasa, it's 27 with light rain. Tonight, the forecast is around 26 degrees with scattered thunderstorms. Here's a joke to start your evening. Okay, here you go. Why did it sound like the presents were singing? They were covered in wrapping paper. There are 5 entries for today. Next up, you have dinner at 7:30 p.m. Here's the rest. No tasks for today. Google Gemini is now signing on. All programs telecast on this station have been approved by the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board. Have a good one. Here's the latest news.
From DW Newsbrief at 4 p.m. today.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. In the United States, local authorities have put parts of downtown Los Angeles under curfew after several days of protests over immigration raids. Some demonstrators are defying the overnight ban. LA police say they've carried out mass arrests. Meanwhile, hundreds of Marines and thousands of National Guard troops have been deployed to the city on the orders of U.S. President Donald Trump. 2 far-right Israeli cabinet ministers have been placed under sanctions by 5 countries: Australia, Britain, Canada, New Zealand, and Norway. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich are accused of repeatedly inciting violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. The 2 could now face asset freezes and travel bans. Austria's chancellor has declared 3 days of national mourning after a former student opened fire at a school in the south of the country, killing 10 people before turning the gun on himself. The suspected shooter was a 21-year-old former student.
The US give, and what RFK Jr.'s overhaul means for vaccine confidence. It's Wednesday, June 11th. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes every weekday. I'm Kim Vanel in Wanganui, New Zealand. A curfew is in place in downtown LA, and more police are being sent in as authorities try to avoid any escalation of anti-ICE protests.
Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew, and you will be prosecuted.
LA Mayor Karen Bass says looting and graffiti was a tipping point for the decision. Tuesday marked 5 days of protest over immigration raids, which are seeing the rounding up of undocumented migrants. Bass is emphasizing that what's happening downtown is not affecting the whole city. In another part of LA, 700 Marines have arrived, adding to the 4,000 National Guard troops already mobilized. Photographer Mike Blake has been covering the protests.
These are not big demonstrations by any sense of anyone's imagination. I mean, they're not that big. I saw most of the crowd on Sunday from where there's maybe 5,000 people there. Black Lives Matter was in the tens of thousands. And it's in a very small area of Los Angeles down by the Federal Building, which is like not even the size of Times Square even. Like it's tiny little area. There's a lot of presence of the LAPD. There's the Los Angeles County sheriffs. There's the California Highway.
Trade truce back on track. Carmel Crimmins is here with more.
Officials wrapped up
Yuck.
2 days of talks around midnight in London. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the agreement means that restrictions on Chinese exports of rare earth minerals and magnets and some recent U.S. export restrictions will be removed in a balanced way. So that's good news for U.S. auto and defense companies that rely on those minerals. But Lutnick didn't provide any details on the agreement. The deal puts the so-called Geneva Consensus back on track. That brought down tariffs from triple-digit levels. But it doesn't resolve deep differences between the two sides. As one analyst put it, we're back to square one, but that's much better than zero. So the two sides have now until August 10 to negotiate a more comprehensive agreement, or else tariff rates will snap back from about 30% to 145% on the US side, and from 10% to 125% on the Chinese side.
So LA
Hopefully
may
that's
have its
Baidu.
hands full at the moment, but later today the city is also hosting an event to mark 1 year to go until the World Cup, which will be in Los Angeles as well as other cities in the US, Canada and Mexico. But the tensions in California and nationwide immigration crackdown are becoming an unavoidable complication for city officials who are gearing up to welcome potentially millions of foreign soccer fans. Our sports correspondent Amy Tenery has the latest.
The Trump administration has assured not only World Cup organizers but Olympic organizers that they will be able to open their doors to the world to come compete, to watch, to enjoy. But at the same time, it is a country that has or is in the process of outright banning travelers from 12 different countries. There will be other countries that are limited in their travel. I think there are a lot of understandable questions from our reporting, which is, are tourists going to feel comfortable here?
You've been speaking to city officials who are tasked with planning the event. What are they saying?
The host committee executives that I've spoken to clearly are not going to stray from the party line too much, right? They're all sending a unified message, which is that they're ready to welcome the world and they're ready to party. At the same time, they've also made it clear that they recognize that these travel bans exist, that there are protests happening in Los Angeles, that the federal government has moved military force in to face off against civilians. This is not lost on them. So I spoke with one host city executive from Miami who said that she's been in touch with members of area consulates to make sure they have the resources they need to work with any international travelers who may have concerns about coming to the United States.
As we reported yesterday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the longtime skeptic who now heads the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has laid off all 17 members of a CDC panel of vaccine experts and replaced them with his picks. Our health team has been looking into Kennedy's claims for this purge and what the impact might be. Michelle Gershberg is our global health editor. So, Michelle, Kennedy says he did this to re-establish public confidence in vaccine science. Is that what's happening now?
Vaccine experts, virology experts, their concern is the message that's being sent in just firing everybody all at once as if there was a specific emergency happening. The criticism that we've heard is that sends a message not only for the future of how decisions are going to be made in the future, and we feel uncertain over how those decisions are going to be made because we know how this group made their decisions. That process was very clear to us. But also, how does it reflect on the decisions that have already been made? Vaccine or disease experts know very well the work that went into it, the evidence that was reviewed, and they came to their conclusions on a firm basis. But Kennedy, as we know, is speaking to a constituency that has a lot of concerns about vaccines, doubts about vaccines, and it remains to be seen whether that constituency will have their confidence restored. It's not yet clear. We don't have details on who will the new members of the committee be,
What expertise do they bring? How will they go about making their decisions? And whether or not they'll be able to bring to the table something that the departing members couldn't.
And for today's recommended read, potatoes and policy. Surging potato prices in Russia are being monitored by the central bank as it prepares to set interest rates. In Russia, food accounts for a whopping 40% of the basket used to calculate inflation, and the price of potatoes and other staples is a major reason for its tight monetary policy. We'll drop a link to that story in the pod description. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favourite podcast player. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
That's it for your news updates. To see more stories, open Google News.